Welcome to another edition of our Beyond the Numbers interview series, where we talk to Valley leaders about what advice they would have for themselves if they could go back and why they love accounting. Today, we're speaking with Robbie Gilbert. He is the VP of Finance at Fullbay. I was excited Robbie said yes, because he's done very well for himself in a very short period of time in his career. Plus, at his current organization, he's in a position where he sees all aspects of accounting and finance, so that very broad, big picture of everything. So I thought he'd be able to give us some good advice. Are you ready to get going, Robbie?
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. So tell us, if you could go back to that staff or senior accountant, what advice would you give yourself?
Yeah, it's been a little while, but looking back, I'm grateful that I had to be in a place where I started. I started at Deloitte, where I had to work really hard. And a lot of accounting and finance can be long hours and hard work, but kind of that upfront investment was really important for me. I feel like if I could go back, like I just tell me, hey, it's going to be worth it. You know, there's days that are, 10, 12, 14-hour days sometimes during busy season. And it'll all be worth it in the end. Like you're gonna have friends that are doing other things, and you're gonna ask yourself, why am I working so much? Well, now it's a lot better for me. And so I'm grateful for that. The other thing I tell myself is a lot of business decisions aren't made because of accounting rules. In fact, very few are.
Okay.
And so like it doesn't matter if you hate what they're changing. They're doing like businesses are in business to make money, not to like apply accounting standards.
Okay.
So just have a really good attitude about, different changes that come through. Now, if you see something unethical, talk to somebody about it.
Right.
Not asking you to do that, but just know that people that are willing to just kind of get in there and try and work through the problems, problem solvers generally end up coming out ahead.
Okay.
Instead of those that complain about it all the time.
Now, when you were working in public accounting, did you have friends that worked in industry and then you were working longer hours, or were you talking about you worked longer hours than people in other industries?
A little bit of both. So I had friends that were in industry that, would do, the typical kind of 9 to 5 accounting in just like a regular corporate accounting environment. Now I had summer breaks and other things that I got a little more time off than they did at different times of year, but they made up for some of that. But during kind of your peak busy season, you're definitely working more than a lot of like a public accounting, actually than a corporate accounting staff accountant would. So.
But you stayed in public for like 3 years, right?
Yeah, just over 3 years. Yep.
And then how long have you been at Fullbay?
So 8 years total, 3 years at Deloitte, 3 years as a controller running accounting and stuff at Fullbay.
Okay.
And then the last 2 years or so have been as VP of Finance.
Okay. So at 7 years in, about 7 years in, you're the VP of Finance within an organization, reporting to the owners?
Reporting to the CEO. So we're private equity backed.
Okay.
And so we report to a private equity board as well as other owners that sit in other investors and owners in the business.
So all your hard work definitely paid off, because that's a pretty fast career track.
Yeah, I feel like I've been pretty fortunate in kind of where I've ended up. Ended up in a great place with where we moved to. Like while I was still at Deloitte, I moved to a different part of the Valley and met the founder of Fullbay, who was also a former Deloitte and Ernst & Young guy. And he said, hey, we would commiserate on what audit rooms look like and how hard busy seasons were at times. And so when they had gone through their first round of investment, he said, hey, we're going to need somebody that can run accounting because they're not going to let me do it as CEO and the finance guy. So I said, oh, yeah, sure, let me join on. And it's been kind of a wild ride.
What advice would you tell yourself now, like you're just leaving public accounting, you're going into industry? What's that transition like? What is that easy? What should people know?
It's easy and hard. Like coming out of a public accounting world, you're used to just working really hard. Like there's a lot to do. And you're generally on deadlines, so that helps, and very organized. Like audit teams, because I came out of an audit background, audit teams are generally really, really organized in how they think through, like these are the things that have to be done. So that was really helpful as I started coming in. But when I walked through the door, they said, hey, you're now in charge of it. So I had to just kind of learn it all and figure it out. Luckily, like in public accounting, you have a lot that you just have to kind of figure out sometimes. And so, but you have a kind of a framework of how to work through it. So it surprised me what I got put in charge of as quickly as I did. But also I was like, because I learned how to kind of organize and like think through different things in the public accounting world, kind of viewing some of that was really helpful.
Okay.
I also joined a very small company at the time. So there was 20 something employees maybe. And I was the first one in finance that came through the door. Well, they had a super part-time accountant that was helping out.
Okay.
And so then she would report up to me and we kind of worked through a lot of the different things, but so kind of interesting coming into it.
So next question then, Why do you love accounting, or what value has accounting added in your career?
Accounting's interesting because I don't know if anyone loves applying complex accounting standards. I think sometimes we love the predictability
Okay.
that comes from it. But the value that it's added is it's kind of given me an opportunity to walk into things that I never would have before. Like if I had come out of school with just a business degree, I don't think I'd have the opportunity today that I do. I've been able to see a lot of business things now. Like we have different strategic planning meetings and we walk through all those things all together and stuff like that. But accounting is a lot of times you get a leg up with it because you understand kind of the language of business, like understanding how financial statements work and function and what they're used for. I shouldn't say not many, but very fewer people have that skill in a business than you would think at times, a small business.
Okay.
As you get a little bit more mature, leadership and things generally have seen it, but you have this kind of unique skill of being able to look at a financial statement and say, I have at least a pretty good idea what this business looks like.
Okay.
That a lot of people just won't.
Okay.
So
Cool.
it's been great.
Any other advice that you would have? Let's just say you're talking to a staff or senior accountant and they want to be promoted. Is there one thing that you could tell them, do this and you'll get a promotion?
Sometimes it's going to be dependent on who's ahead of you, right? So just know that every once in a while, I walked into a situation where I felt pretty fortunate that there wasn't a lot of people ahead of me because we were so small.
Right.
If you're in a big accounting, like a corporate accounting environment, sometimes the opportunities are a little more limited, which is fine. It's a great career and there's a lot of good things that can come out of that. But the one thing I've noticed, and as we've hired and promoted people within Fullbay, is problem solvers generally are like the ones that you gravitate towards wanting to promote.
Okay.
You're going to find problems everywhere. There's going to be hard things in just about every business, but those that are like trusted, like they come with a solution. Sometimes that solution isn't right, and you're going to kind of work through it together. But those that like have a true problem solving mentality generally are the ones that get moved forward because they can think through things more critically than others.
Okay.
The other thing I would say is you got to be a little bit more diverse. Having a really good accountant is different than someone that understands like how the accounting, like everything gets into an accounting system and the data behind it and the structure. Things aren't always as clean as you would hope. And so if you can understand this is the data source, how it's structured, how it functions, how it ties into another system, those people are so valuable. Like, and they're hard to find.
Okay.
And so if you can become someone that understands kind of the back end systems and how everything functions and works, you're also a very valuable person.
So you're more talking about like the accounting technology, like how the data gets into the system and stuff. Okay.
Yep, because accounting, there's very rarely like one like really clean place to get all the data that you want to do analysis. And on the finance side, it's tricky because you have different things you have to just take into account as you build forecasts and budgets and other things. It comes from a lot of different places. And so having someone that knows what those sources are, but also how you can tie the sources together is incredible. Okay,
cool. All right, Robbie, I definitely appreciate your time this afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and stay tuned next week for another edition of our Beyond the Numbers series. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.